How you doing, folks? Negro'S. Hey there. How are you? What's going on? How you doing? This is the Doug Rice Show. I'm here at 2 o'clock this afternoon, my time, here on the West Coast, the Northwest Pacific. Welcome, one and all who will tune in to see later or sooner to hear from me. I'm going to be at this in a different kind of angle, coming at you on a platform, hopefully from a different device that hopefully will keep up with the demand. First and foremost, I want to thank the folks that support this effort. Those folks, Paul Patan, who has been greatly supportive of what is done here at the Doug Rice Show. Thank you so much to Paul for all of your support. You've been greatly appreciated. And also to David Pickett. David Pickett, who as well has shown a great deal of support to this effort. I do, in fact, thank you as well. All right. To business. First and foremost, have you folks checked out the news? Do you see the news? Do you see what's happening in the news? I'm certain if you've got half a brain, you can see that these white folks are going insane. And I'd like to point out one that stands out in particular. Big Judah has been he's been amazing in bringing out some very short, very pointed, poignant points that really point to the obvious. His latest effort 17 hours ago, I believe, maybe a little bit not, Obadiah being fulfilled. The wise men in Edom have disappeared. Now, if you folks have not had a chance to go check out Big Judah in his efforts, some folks don't agree with the esoteric approach he brings to his lives. I personally like all of the information he brings. I sift it and I go through it in a manner that best suits me, and I take the meat, spit out the bone, leave what I don't agree with alone. But that particular short, under 10-minute video, Obadiah being fulfilled, Big Judah, for those of you that follow. Now, the news has talked about something that I think came to the fore for Negroes as a whole during the BET Awards. And that was, Taraji P. Henson dressed up there talking about political things. And she pointed to something that I think is paramount for all of us who are identifying as awakening Negroes in this environment. And this environment, as I've said before and I'll say again, is not our rest. It is not our home. It is not where we will be having our final rest. This is, in fact, a temporary situation, one that started some 400 years ago when all of this began. So now, what came up at the BET Awards, the Taraji P. Henson, involves something I think folks need to listen about. And here it is. If you folks haven't heard of this document, if you haven't heard about Project 2025, if you're not up to speed, well, this is exactly what you need. Let me tell you. Okay? Now, just to make sure I don't get too distracted there, I'm going to turn that moving back off. This thing has a weird little sensitive area here, so forgive me if I'm not 1,000 in step here. So for you folks, hopefully you can hear me, you can see what it is we're looking at. This, folks, is it. This is the 2025 Mandate for Leadership, the Conservative Promise. Now, this is quite a document. This is all the roar. This is all the rage these days. And to put it poignantly, this document is going to, if put into initiation, is going to change the very fabric of this country, erasing it, making it unrecognizable in every respect. You won't be living in the America you were born in. Now, first, the breakdown of this is pretty interesting. Let me just tell you. Let me make sure I'm in where I need to be here. Now, there are a lot of pages to this thing. And this is, again, Mandate for Leadership, the Conservative Promise, the Presidential Transition Project. Now, just to give you a heads up, folks, if you're not paying attention, this contains the blueprint for which Donald Trump will take his revenge on Negroes everywhere. I'm going to say that again. This Mandate for Leadership, the Conservative Promise, brought to you by the Heritage Foundation, the most racist, right-wing, white nationalist group on the face of this planet. This document is the most, I would say, the most detrimental piece of work that's ever been put together. And again, the Heritage Foundation, I advise that you look it up. It is in Washington, D.C. There it is, all the information. And they made this up and made it official in 2023. Okay? Now, the foreword for this document is impressive. They lay out what it is they want to do. More than that, the content is really what tells the tale, what the target is, and what they intend for this document's, for this preparation. The reason they want to do this is pretty much defined in the contents of the document itself. They have an advisory board. They give acknowledgments. They have the transition project, a note on the project itself. They tell you the authors, the contributors. There's a foreword, as I mentioned, from Kevin D. Roberts, PhD. They got a lot of smart people doing this dumb shit, okay? And the first section is really what this is about, taking the reins of government. Now, as you can see, under each of these headings are the folks responsible for coming up with the direction of how their actions will go. So what we have here is, and I advise that each of you look up these characters, or more or less these caricatures. Now let's start with the White House. Taking the reins of government, the White House, Rick Dearborn. Rick Dearborn, he is a former White House Deputy Chief of Staff. He's 58 years old. And Rick Dearborn is an American government official lobbyist who served as the White House Deputy Chief of Staff for Legislative Intergovernmental Affairs for Donald Trump for less than a year, from 2017. And prior to that, he served in various positions. Let's just assume, folks, that anybody that is working for Donald Trump in this transition capacity is more or less a right-wing white nationalist Nazi. And if they're not a white nationalist and right-wing Nazi, they're associated with Nazis or right-wing nationalism or white nationalism. Who cares? They're going to be all his cronies, all these folks that want to primarily take the reins of government. They want to start with the White House. They want to move on to the executive office of the President of the United States by Russ Voigt. Let's just assume he's a crony. Central personnel agencies managing the bureaucracy: Donald Devine, Dennis Dean, Kirk, and Paul Dans. Folks, all you got to do is look some of these people up. They want to gut the country. They want to take the reins of this U.S. government so that they can gut the country. Now, let me give you just a brief overview. I don't want you to be, what I don't want you to do is I don't want you to the boat. I don't want you to misunderstand what it is we're talking about. Now, let me get this right, all right? Project 2025, also known as the Presidential Transition Project, is a collection of conservative and right-wing policy proposals from the Heritage Foundation to reshape the United States federal government and consolidate executive power should the Republican Party candidate win the 2024 presidential election. Let me pause. That is the slime ball we all know as Donald J. Trump. This is a demon. This man is a danger, a clear and present danger to the globe, not the United States, but to living beings as a whole. And we're going to get into that. What Project 2025 proposes is it proposes to reclassify tens of thousands of merit-based federal civil service workers as political appointees in order to replace them with loyal conservatives to further the objectives of that next Republican president. Again, the cesspool of humanity, Donald J. Trump, the child rapist, the sexual assaulter, the serial sexual assaulter, the liar, the cheat, the traitor, the coward, him, that guy. The critics of the Project 2025 have characterized it as an authoritarian Christian nationalist plan to transform the United States into an autocracy. Several legal experts have asserted it would undermine the rule of law, the separation of powers, the separation of church and state, civil liberty. It's planning to do all of that. And the Heritage Foundation president, Kevin Roberts, said in 2024, July, that we are in the process of the Second American Revolution, which will remain bloodless if the left allows it to be. Now I'm going to pause there. The guy that, again, created, need I say, this document, okay? The guy that created this document, the document brought to you by the Heritage Foundation, the Mandate for Leadership, he said this just a few days ago, Kevin Roberts, we are in the process of the Second American Revolution, which will remain bloodless if the left allows it to be. So the onus this cretin is putting on, the response to the left of their attempt to take power by force if necessary, to claim that what may happen next, a presumptive loss for Donald Trump as of just before the debate, you know, they're going to just say the left isn't cooperating, and so that bloodless transition now becomes a bloody transition. Let me tell you something, folks. This document is nothing more than telegraphing. This document, what it does is lays intent of order. They're telling you in no uncertain terms that they intend with all certain terms to bring about bloodshed to this country because that's what they want. This mandate for leadership is a mandate for bloodshed. This mandate for leadership is a mandate for killing. This mandate for leadership is a mandate for death. It's a conservative promise. They want it. And this cretin who wears the moniker of a PhD, Kevin D. Roberts, chairman of the Heritage Foundation, the most right-wing white nationalist, neo-Nazi-like group you've ever known, all they're missing all the pointy sheets. Oh, they don't like Negro'S. He said that they're in the process of an American revolution. They're in the process of this American revolution, and it's up to the left. Who gives a fuck about these leftists? It's up to the left to ensure that it remain bloodless. Now, folks, look. I was a young man once, but I'm no longer young. And so that means, folks, I'm not dumb. We know what they want. We know what they want. They want war. They want civil war. They're making movies about it. They want death. They want bloodshed. They want Negroes. Now let's stop pussyfooting around and stop talking about what we won't talk about. Ever since Donald Trump has been litigiously dragged through the courts by everything with a brown face, he has had an attitude against Negroes. Now, he's not mad at black people that support him. He's not mad at black Americans that say, make America great again. No, he's mad at Negroes that call him to account, that's not scared to look him in his lily white face and call him the cracker that he is. Negroes like me. And it would take a Negro to stop Donald Trump in his tracks. And that's what they put upon this man. And that's a fact. Now, all you got to do is look at the faces up in those litigious places, and you can understand why they've got such a frown on their faces. And Donald Trump is using this document, this thing that they've put together by the Heritage Foundation, laid in place by a known racist, a man that, just has a problem with anything that's not him. And so with that in mind, we see what's really at stake here. We see what this is all about. They want a civil war. Of that, have no doubt. And they're pressing for it. Now, let me just, because I want to make sure that we understand the framework with which Mr. Roberts talked about that bloodless war, if the left allows it. Paul Dans, the project's director, says in April 2023 that Project 2025 is systematically preparing to march into office and bring a new army of aligned, trained, and essentially weaponized conservatives ready to do battle against the deep state. This is what these folks want. Everything that they telegraph intimates violence. Let me just say this. They haven't had the expression of violence released from within them for so long. Not as a collective, no. I mean, the last real collective they feebly attempted to resurge the violence, the sword that Edom was given. That was Korea, North Korea, and they're still paying for that feeble attempt. No, the last real vestige of violence that they chose to met upon the world was World War II, that predicated incident that established Israel as a state. And so now the buildup of these machinations that need to be expressed and outwardly manifested, they are coming to a head. They are coming to a boil. Can you not hear them boiling? They're boiling. That's what they're doing. They're boiling in the sun. The sun is having an effect on the minds of these creatures to the extent that they would follow a man like Donald Trump all the way to the path of creating a document that they want to press upon the world. They think beyond measure that there should be a reshaping, a mandate for that violence, a mandate for that killing, a mandate, a promise that they put upon the world. And that world that they've created will now be ripped apart by their own doing. And not only are they proud of their plans, they've put them in writing. Now, I know that we started going down the line, but I need you to understand these folks have lost their minds. These are what they've targeted for erasure. I need you to look closely. Now, what effect do you think this will have on the American public if they eliminate departments like the Department of Agriculture, the Department of Education, the Department of Energy, and all the related commissions, the Environmental Protection Agency, the Department of Health and Human Services? If they eliminated the Department of Housing and Urban Development, who would that affect most? If they eliminated the Department of Interior, the Department of Justice, the Department of Labor and related agencies, the Department of Transportation, and the Department of Veteran Affairs, if all of these departments were done away with, I want you to go and itemize in your Negro mind what effect and who that effect would have on the most in this country. Take a minute. This is what they're talking about. And oddly, the Supreme Court has given this man a subtle green light to move forward. He is now impervious to prosecution through presidential protection. My God, can you make the connection? Do you not understand the intent of this man? Don't you get it? He surrounded himself with sycophants. Their names are beneath each itemized intent. Sycophants is what we're talking about, folks. This is who Donald Trump has working this white wheel into existence. The target is Negroes. Let me continue. The Washington Post reported, let me get the screen here. The Washington Post reported in November 2023 that Jeffrey Clark, a contributor to the project and a former official in the Trump Department of Justice, would advise the future president to immediately deploy the military for domestic law enforcement by invoking the Insurrection Act of 1807. Reported several Project 2025 partners praised the July 2024 Supreme Court decision granting broad immunity for unlawful acts committed in the course of president's official duties. So as you can see, what I'm reading here is not dated, it's current. Project 2025 envisions widespread changes across the government, particularly economic and social policies, and the role of the federal government and its agencies. The plan proposes taking partisan control of, listen carefully, now partisan means partisan. It means that you are partial. It means that you are partial towards one side and not the other. So these partisans, which are GOP sycophants, operatives, they are, the folks that wrote this, they're going to take control of the Department of Justice, the Federal Bureau of Investigation, the Department of Commerce, the Federal Communications Commission, the Federal Trade Commission, dismantling the Department of Homeland Security, sharply reducing environmental and climate change regulations to favor fossil fuel production. The blueprint seeks to institute tax cuts, though its writers disagree on the wisdom of protectionism. Project 2025 recommends the abolishment of the Department of Education. Now, if they do away with the Department of Education, what do you think they're going to teach in their schools? Whatever the fuck they want to, people. If they want to teach a lie, they'll teach a lie. If they want to do away with what they call critical race theory, you will not hear the history of white people putting black people into slavery. Your children will no longer hear it. It will be a sigh of relief for their conscience. All right, so they also want to do the National Institutes in Health. That would also be cut, would be reformed along the conservative principles. Now, when they talk about conservative principles, we know what they're talking about, don't we? The project urges government to explicitly reject abortion as healthcare. On day one, he's talking about outlawing the abortion pill. I'm not in favor of abortion. I'm not against abortion. Let these people do what they want. It's not my problem. Moreover, folks, as I'm on the subject, don't you get embroiled in the mechanics of what you see going on. Do not get your mind so melded with the, all the movements that they have distracting you from, what most important. I say this because it's important you understand their intent. When they are able to control these agencies, they are able to control lives. lives. And they have one life that they seem set to control, and it's not their own. They apparently seem to think they have control over their own lives. But the life they most want to affect in this country right now are Negroes' lives. And more to the point, the lives of Negroes that are awakening to the lies. And the lies are becoming more and more apparent. The falsehoods, you can look through, they're more and more transparent. The facts are what's really putting all of this to bed. I mean, the fact that you can look this up and get the documents, as I've read. This is really a cry that is a 911 call to all of us, to every last Negro. If this man attains the heights of power he dreams of, it will then become the nightmare Negroes have dreaded. You remember, you tuned in here and I said it. So I'm of the mind that most folks are kind of, obscure in their thinking when Donald Trump says that he's going to have the largest deportation in history. If you think he's simply talking about the migrants that they give $5,000 to when they get here, plus a place to live, $1,400 a month, and then put them on health care, if you think that's them they're talking about being put in black neighborhoods, seemingly meant to replace us in some way, shape, or form, that's not what he's talking about. No, let me say this. Here's what the project recommends. It recommends the arrest, detention, and deportation of undocumented immigrants living in the United States. It promotes capital punishment and the speedy finality of those sentences. I mean, this is what it's planning. I do want to tell you, folks, the Donald Trump has promised on day one to give police complete and total immunity. He let that echo in your ears for just a moment. Donald Trump intends to give police in America total immunity for any of their actions on day one. So what you want to ask yourself is, do you really want to be here on January 21st, 2025, if this Negro makes it to the White House alive? Of course you don't. You want to be elsewhere. You want to be out of here, because they're coming. It's not about a flea doctrine. They're coming. They're on the way. This is a very interesting document. Now, my intent was to kind of come here and just lay down as much of the document as possible, but this thing has 920 pages. I did, however, put it up so that if you were interested in obtaining the document, you'd be able to download it. So I like in the acknowledgments, and I do believe I'm going to read them for you, because I take great pleasure in seeing them attempt to be civil in their racist hatred. They try to couch what they do with such sweetness. They say these nice, sweet things. Let me see what they got to say here. So, acknowledgments. I'm going to read this. This work, Mandate for Leadership 2025, the Conservative Promise, is a collective effort of hundreds of volunteers who have banded together in the spirit of advancing positive change for America. That's secret speak for they want to see America white again. And that is an absolute truth. That's what these folks want. Our work is by no means the comprehensive compendium of conservative policies, nor our group the exclusive cadre of conservative thinkers. The ideas expressed in this volume are not necessarily shared by all. Yes, the ideas are not necessarily shared by all. The ideas, the exclusionary posture, the cancellation of services that affect people of color, all of the things that you intend to do in order to lock in the might of white that is within this country. Forgive the dogs, they're barking at something. Apologies. So, what unites us is the drive to make our country better. Better for who? Okay. First and foremost, we thank the chapter authors and contributors who gave so freely of their time in service of their country. These are folks that have the opportunity to write something that other folks would have said no to, but Trump said yes. Just remember that. We are particularly grateful to have the help of dedicated members of the Heritage Foundation's management and policy teams. Stop. The Heritage Foundation, folks, is something every Negro needs to take an interest in looking up. The Heritage Foundation gives you a real reason for being cautious regarding Donald Trump's reelection. The Heritage Foundation, that in itself should let you absorb this information from the perspective of what they represent and understand that what they represent has none of our interests at hand. None of our interests. In fact, the opposite can be said. It is a European centralized ideation of intent that gives full power and weight to the next government to do all it can to preserve what they consider to be the optimal American. And if you want to know what the optimal American is in the eyes of folks that write this document, look in the mirror. That ain't them. So they name the people that they want to thank. Good. The job of transforming the work of dozens of authors and hundreds of contributors into cohesive manuscript fell upon Heritage's formidable team of editors led by these research editors. Now, again, I'll challenge any of you Negroes to look the pedigree up of any of these Europeans. And you're going to find what I expect you to be seeing. Right-wing white nationalism associated with everything non-Negro, pro-white. And let me tell you something, folks, that's not right. So those are the folks they thank. Without tireless efforts, we would not be reading these words. They went to it. They talk about the talented work of data graphic services managers. The most important, we're grateful to the leadership, supporters, and donors of each of the project's 2025 advisory board member organizations and those of the Heritage Foundation, without whom Project 2025 would not be possible. Thank you. Yeah. Folks, again, this is dangerous stuff. The Heritage Foundation, in promoting this document, puts in the public forum the intent of imposing European ideation to an extreme upon the population of the United States, excluding those who are credited with building what they enjoy. And soon, all of this will come crashing down. All of this will come crashing down. This document also tells the world that these folks are crazy. Don't they understand? I can download this 920-page document. That means the world leaders are looking at what the next administration intends for the population of the United States, and they see a train wreck about to occur. Here, what do you think they intend to do to prevent it or to egg it on? There's going to come a time, folks, when the telegraphing stops and the action begins. And all I'm saying to all you folks that listen is just keep your head on the swivel. Now, I do appreciate you taking the time listening to me. As you can see, I'm losing my voice. And I appreciate you, hitting the like button, the subscribe button, the share button. Do yourself a favor, get a copy of this document, summarize it, get the general gist of what the folks like Donald Trump and those that support him intend for folks like you and me in this country. Understand that, once it's begun, once it's started, you're not going to be able to stop. You're not going to be able to get in the way of this train. You're only going to have to get out of its way. All right, folks, that's me. I'm Doug Rice. Thank you so much. Again, want to wish my lovely wife, Lena Rice, a happy 21st wedding anniversary. This is the 3rd of July, 2024. Of course, I'd love to say a whole lot more. Of course, I love my woman. She is not with me right now. We are relocating, but she's been supportive of her family in their time of need, and I am being supportive of mine. And so we will be together again. I love you, babe. Thanks so much for being such a great wife for so long. And do support this effort, folks, please. It helps in the transition. You guys have a wonderful day. I'm out of here. I'm on a mission. All right, you guys have a wonderful day. I am out. All right. Bye-bye now.